Hello and welcome back. So in this point, I would actually want us to use the HLOOKUP so that we can see how we can obtain the currency rates. So HLOOKUP exact match, and the application here is for the currency exchange rates. In this point here, I have the currency. So $1 is actually equivalent to 130 Kenya shillings and also equivalent to 3,800 Ugandan shillings and also equivalent to 2,500 Tanzanian shillings. So Kenya shillings, Ugandan shillings, Tanzanian shillings. So that's actually for $1. Now in this point, I would actually want us to obtain this 130 here on this point here by using the HLOOKUP. So the US dollar rate for the Kenya shillings. So $1 is actually equivalent to 130 Kenya shillings. So let's obtain that 130 Kenya shillings by using the HLOOKUP function. So first of all, subscribe to this YouTube channel so that you can actually stay informed whenever I actually upload a video, and also follow me on the X account so that we can build this platform together. So that's said and done. So we can now do the work. So HLOOKUP open, it will ask you for the lookup value. So the lookup value in this point is actually Kenya shillings. Yes, you can actually check that Kenya shillings is actually on the top row of the table array. So it's actually Kenya shillings like that, comma. So the table array is the wall of this table here, and you can actually check that the lookup value is actually on the top row of the table array. Remember, we actually say that in the HLOOKUP, the lookup value has to be on the top row of the table array, on the top row of the table array, or on row number 1 of the table array. So that's actually okay. Comma, it will ask you for the row index number. In this point, we are actually returning for the exchange rate, which is actually on row number 2 of this table array. So we are actually interested with the row number 2. So it's actually 2. Then, comma, it will ask you for approximate match or the exact match. In this point, it's actually the exact match. Double click on it like that. Then you close the HLOOKUP, hit enter on the keyboard. It's actually equivalent to 130. Now, what will actually happen if I wanted to use the quotations? So if I wanted to use the quotations, I would have just removed that H14, which is actually for this cell reference of case. Then open the quotation, then write case. Then write case to mean Kenya shillings. Then you close it like that. Everything is actually okay. The moment I actually hit enter, I'll actually obtain 130. How about for the UGX, which is actually for the Ugandan shillings? So before we actually check on that, let me actually bring you to this point here. I'm actually offering all these courses on my Google Drive account, so you can access all these courses on the Google Drive account, and I actually assure you that you will master Excel upon completing all these courses, and you'll just have to pay $100. So my site is on hold a bit, and it will be back very soon. But before it's actually back, you can access all these courses at just $100, because when it's actually back, you will have to access it at $945. So I'm actually getting you one of the biggest discounts. So from $945 all the way to $100. You can imagine that. So when the site is also back, you won't actually lose the access to these courses. So it won't just be the access to the Google Drive. No, when the site is back, your access actually shifts to the site. So that's all. Now, for the point of the projects, you can also get me your projects so that I can help you build your business and more. For example, if you would actually want me to develop for you the pivot tables and the models, the Power BI, that's for the dashboards and the charts, the automations, the financial forecast, the templates management, and the cloud in Excel prompting, that's for the monthly subscription. I'll actually be charging you $550 only per month. Now imagine $550 a month for all this work. And for the one-time task, for example, the dashboard designs, the data analysis and insights, smart macros, and adds Power BI reports, all this work, that's it actually ranges from $150 to $300 only. So you can actually check that they are very affordable. And for the templates, I can also design for you the template and manage it for you every month at $50. So design, manage every month at $50. Or you can also get me this simple task here. Let's say, for example, I design for you a personal finance template, inventory template, business templates, reporting templates, HR templates, sales performance templates. The prices are actually very favorable. $22, $19, $15, $19, $12, $17. So you can actually check that they are very affordable. So that's all. So for us to actually talk the business, let's say for example for the projects, for the templates, and for the courses, this is actually my email. So reach me out there so that you can actually talk business. Now, let's say for example, we would like to see the exchange rate for the Ugandan shillings. So $1 is actually equivalent to that 800 Ugandan shillings. But I would actually want us to use the HLOOKUP so that we can come up with the same value. So it's equivalent to HLOOKUP like that. You open, it will ask you for the lookup value, which is actually UGX, which is actually the Ugandan shillings. Comma, it will ask you for the table array. So the table array is this one here selected. Which row are you returning? Row index number. I'm actually returning row number 2 of my table array because that's where we have the exchange rate for the dollar. So row number 2 like that. Then it will ask you for approximate match or exact match. In my case, exact match. Double click. Then you close the bracket there. Hit enter on the keyboard. It's actually 3,800 Ugandan shillings. So you can also avoid using the cell reference like that, and then you just use the quotations UGX, close the quotation, hit enter on the keyboard, 3,800 Tanzanian shillings like that. So we'll actually go HLOOKUP again, then open. It will ask you for the lookup value, which is actually Tanzanian shillings, which is actually on H16, comma, it will ask you for the table array, which is actually this one here. It will ask you for the row index number, which is actually row number 2 of my table array. Then I'm actually returning the exact match. Double click on it like that. It's actually false or a 0. False or a 0 is actually equivalent to the exact match. Close the HLOOKUP function, hit enter on the keyboard. It's actually equivalent to 2,500 shillings. So you can just replace that H16 with TZSHS, which is actually Tanzanian shillings. Close the quotation, hit enter on the keyboard, 2,500 Tanzanian shillings. So $1 is actually equivalent to 130 Kenya shillings. $1 is actually equivalent to 3,800 Ugandan shillings, and $1 is basically equivalent to 2,500 Tanzanian shillings. So that's all about the application of the HLOOKUP when it comes to the currency exchange rates. Let's also check the next video.